Buonasera. Welcome to another episode of Regional Italian Cuisine. My name is Caterina, and on this program we're going to be featuring bread. Of course, bread is something that's very synonymous with the Italians, but it is out there. Bread is one of those oldest of all foods, probably about 30,000 years history, and bread is something that accompanies food, is part of our lives. It was there to stave off hunger. So it's become a very important part of our cultural history. If you think about bread, I think about the smells, the texture, the grains. Oh wow, I love it. I'm Italian. I love it. And on that note, let's go and meet two of the lovely ladies from William Angliss. Well, viewers, on my right, I'd like to introduce Angela, who is the Senior Educator here at William Angliss in patisserie. And on my left, I have the beautiful Nicola, Nick from marketing. Now, let's talk about bread.
Let's talk about bread. People always ask me, what is bread? And I always say bread is 4 fundamental ingredients. You've got flour, you've got water, you've got a raising agent, like it could be a yeast or a starter dough, and salt. That's the essence of a real bread.
Is that all it is?
That's all it is.
Yeah. Sounds so simple.
And so then we go again onto our different kinds of breads. We can add all our grains, we can add our linseeds. We were talking earlier about adding walnuts for having with a walnut bread with cheese. There's so many breads out there, but the staple, those 4 ingredients.
And has it changed how we see bread? Because I think back 20 years ago, you didn't see sourdoughs. You didn't see these heavy ryes. They really weren't at the fore, were they?
Maybe they're coming back now, Caterina, because back in many years ago, and it's been around for 30,000 years, as you mentioned, it's a kind of... Sourdoughs were the bread of the time because we had to have natural starters.
That's right.
And so those natural starters created the bread of the age, and now it's transcended to, I guess, artisan breads that we see here in Melbourne. Yeah,
and that's what they are, artisan breads, because they are very particular about what they do to the breads, I guess, as opposed to being processed down the factory line.
That's correct.
They're a bit more textural for that reason.
And breads are a range of many flavours and I guess grains as well, as we mentioned, like the rye, the processing of the grains themselves, and how healthy bread is becoming now. We've got the new introduction of chia that's being introduced to bread. So people are more conscious of what they are eating. And again, all you need to do is have a look at what you buy at the supermarket, what's in your bread, and you'll know what you're consuming. But it should be only 4 ingredients.
And let me ask you, are those trends being translated here at the school in terms of what you're teaching?
Yes, they are, Caterina. We have a few bread specialists, and they do. We've actually had one gentleman who went over to San Francisco to learn the art of sourdough. And he's brought those skills and knowledge back to the Institute to share with our students, share with our teachers. And again, we are at the forefront of new technologies, new contemporary ideas with bread, and always growing.
And sourdough, it always has a mother dough usually, doesn't it?
That's right. And
because some of them can be really, really old. I remember talking to some of the bread makers. You can have the starters that go for centuries.
There are some parts of the world where they have sourdoughs, or the starters or mothers. They're passed down from generation to generation. And we have our students here, we create starters, and we call them lovely names like Freddie or Ralph Lauren, and we let the students get involved in what they want to do with their starters.
And what do the starters involve? Things like fruit? There can be a pear?
You can have anything from potatoes to apples to onions that ferment and get that bread going. But ideally, flour and water, you can get your sourdough started that way by mixing it together, leaving it overnight, letting it ferment, and you keep feeding it, so it becomes like your baby. And you need to nurture it, put it in the refrigerator if you're going away, take it back out. So it's just a lovely way to make bread.
All right, and on that note, we're going to meet one of your master bakers, aren't we?
We are. His name is Paul Hughes.
And he's got a story to tell us about San Francisco.
He does.
So what I have here is a levain that I made yesterday from one of my sourdough cultures. With the levain, I'm using the levain to impart flavour into my sourdough. With the levain, it's about 70% to the flour weight of my final dough. And one of the things with the levain is there's natural yeast that I've got from my culture and also bacteria. And I've created that culture to basically breed up that yeast and bacteria population to give me a particular flavour in my sourdough. So what I'm doing today is I'm using the levain to mix with the rest of my ingredients to impart, as I said, a particular flavour into my finished product. With the levain, what I'm going to add to the levain is my baker's flour. The reason why I use the baker's flour is because of the high percentage of protein that I need to form the gluten structure within the dough. Now, the baker's flour also contains a natural food source for the yeast to feed off to ensure that fermentation can continue for a long period of time. One of the other things that I need to do with this sourdough is to give it time to allow that flavour to build up within the product and to ensure that I get a nice, strong, sour flavour. So this levain was made actually yesterday, and it's had approximately 12 to 18 hours time to ferment. When I make the dough, once I've finished with the dough, again, I'm going to let that sit overnight. I'm going to process the dough tomorrow and bake it tomorrow to have the finished product. So what I'm going to do now is combine my ingredients together, and they're very simple ingredients. It's nothing special here that I have. I have the baker's flour, which is, as I said, I need this for the protein content and also the food source for the yeast. And this is available from your local supermarkets, usually found in the aisle where a lot of the bread premixes can be found. So the easiest way to do this is, if you haven't got a bench mixer such as this, the easiest way to do this is by hand. So all I'm going to do is to tip this flour out onto the bench. To that, I'm going to add my salt. And I'm just going to mix the salt through the flour. And now I'm going to add my dry yeast, baker's yeast. I don't need to use baker's yeast. If I've got enough time, my levain alone will have enough yeast population to leaven my bread. But just to speed the process up a little bit, I'm adding a small amount of yeast. It's 0.1% to the flour weight. And this is going to be sufficient yeast to give my bread the volume that I'm looking for. So I'm going to put my yeast in now, and again, just mix that through the flour. And then I'm going to add my levain to this, and also my water, and I'm going to start to combine all these ingredients together. One thing that you should have that's nice and handy is a scraper, just in case you have start to create a bit of a mess on the bench, you're able to bring it back and contain it into the one spot. So all I'm going to do here is start bringing this flour from the inside edge into the middle. And start combining this together. So add a little bit more water. So now that I've brought these ingredients together, what I'm going to do with this now is basically continue to knead this until I form a nice dough. And I'm going to let that sit on the bench for about an hour and a half. Make sure that is covered while that is resting. And this is the first part of the fermentation stage. What I'm going to do, once this has had its hour and a half, I'm going to divide this into my two dough pieces, and then I'm going to let that rest again for about 10 minutes before I do my final shape.
And viewers, when we come back, let's go back into the kitchen to see what Paul's got for us.